Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm Jeff, and this is Olivia here with me. For those who haven't been on a fireside chat before, we keep it kind of informal, and the uh, participation is a little bit limited because if we have a lot of guests, it can get a little chaotic. So that's why we like getting the questions ahead of time. So thank you for those that submitted questions. We'll get to those hopefully by the end of the call today. This is an opportunity to sort of catch up on what's going on. As premium members, we thank you very much for being a part of this and being closer to us as a result of that premium status, giving you access to things like this and things like looking at our app as it's in development and giving us feedback are all critical things for us, and we really appreciate your time and energy with that. And we hope to have a lot more experiences like that coming up, and we'll touch on some of that today. Just watching the waiting room here for a second as some more people are coming in. Thank you for joining. It's Labor Day, so happy Labor Day, everybody. It's probably most of us are working in one way or another, either at work or doing things with kids and whatnot. But we appreciate you guys being here. Absolutely. So we're going to do cameras off for guests right now. So if you can, I'm going to see if I can just kind of selectively do that. That way, we're going to record this, and we'll record the screen that Olivia and I are on, and send it out to folks that couldn't attend, or if you want to rewatch it back at some point. So we'll just kind of manage video that way. So thank you all for doing that. Today, what we want to do is something, first of all, we want to give a big thank you for those that were able to help out with the beta testing of the very first look at the ShadowNurse app. We were excited to get something out to you, and it was just very basic. For those of you that didn't see it, we're going to play a very short video. It's just about a minute, just a little over a minute long, which kind of will get you oriented as to what we showed some of the other premium members who opted in to give us some feedback. And we got a lot of really, really good feedback, and it was very much appreciated. So let me just jump right into that. We'll show there's no audio in the video, so if you don't hear any audio, don't worry. You're with us. Everything is going as planned. So let me find that screen real quick. So we're just going to watch that video quickly, and then do one quick thing over here. There we go. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the feedback that was given. Let's see if this shows up. Olivia, can you confirm that you can see the screen there?
Looks good.
Great. Going to go ahead and play the video. And so I'll kind of narrate here a little bit. So, and it happens kind of fast. But basically, I'm going to jump back. I'm going to do this a little differently than I thought. So the whole notion is that we're creating an app that will be on your phone. It has a mind of its own. We're creating an app that's going to live on your phone that you can click into and then get to a page that will showcase your profile. And these are just kind of some concepts that we're working with right now, and the feedback that we got was really helpful in terms of teasing out what concepts are beneficial and what aren't. But the whole idea here is that you could scroll through a list of profiles and ultimately claim your own profile, right? So, and as premium members, we're gonna hope to roll this out to you all first. And so you can imagine if you don't see your name up here already, that your name would be featured here as one of the ShadowNurse tiles that a patient, for example, could identify and select and learn more about you and ultimately connect with you. So I don't want to read too far into the specifics of things because there's a lot that's going to change potentially between now and when we release, but just some of the basic things up at the top. We have some ways that we can filter for certain specialty types or focus areas, and I just got finished developing about 130 different focus areas for some of our engineers that we're going to have you able to pick from, so you can kind of pick where your interests lie, so that patients who have similar needs can find you in that way. One of the other cool things that we're thinking about is languages, and so we have the little flag icon for representing different areas of the world and representing different languages by doing that. So if we haven't done so yet, if you haven't gotten a request from us yet, we do want at some point to go and have you update your spoken languages and your focus areas. And so we'll look out for a survey or something coming soon for you to do that. The more information we have, the easier it is for us to pre-populate these profiles, and the better it is for patients who are looking for very specific things to find you. Let's see, let me keep moving along here.
Jeff,
There's going to be
can I make a quick comment?
absolutely. You didn't
Um,
want me to just talk endlessly for the whole 45 minutes?
no, you're fine. I'm sure some of the nurses are asking, is there a way to help patients figure out if they're the best fit, nurse for their case? And before patients get to this screen, there will be, a triage, if you will, to help patients get narrowed down to a group of nurses that is, matching the specialty or matching the language or matching, some other, filter that we're going to come up with, maybe availability. So by the time they get to your profile, it will be a pretty good match of a patient in the case, depending on, how much of your profile you've completed and what what the patient puts in. So wanted to do a shout out to that algorithm that we're going to be using to help with that.
Yeah, the algorithm. And there's a lot of magic behind the scenes that we're working on. So this is just kind of something we wanted you all to react to, because it's something you can see and look and touch and feel a little bit. But there's a lot happening behind the scenes as well. Things like the algorithm that Olivia mentioned will be able to take attributes from patients and match them to attributes that you have, so that we can streamline getting people to the best match possible. And so just a couple other quick highlights here. So able to list your degrees. You can filter by degree. So if somebody was interested in filtering by a certain degree type, they could do that. And they could filter by language. They can filter by the focus areas and all that stuff. So the idea here is to have like a sort of interactive way to refine this list of nurses yourselves,
Can
for
I say
better sort of.
another thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, another just mention, another note that probably all of you are thinking right now, but what's really cool to me about this and why, I've brought it to kind of this marketplace is patients don't have an easy way to get matched directly with a nurse, with a specialist right now, right? If you think about um, hospitals, right? You get maybe paired with a care coordinator at discharge for a little while, but they're employed by the hospital. There might be a few services out there, but nothing as robust as this, where nurses have on-demand nurses and nurses have an opportunity to meet patients and provide their skill set directly. So that's another, background about why we're structuring it this way, because I believe that this marketplace concept is in demand for both nurses and patients.
We're having some great questions coming in. Feel free to use the chat with us. I don't think it's a public chat, but we can, if you chat, it'll reach Olivia and myself as the hosts. So good question coming in. And we'll get to that in just a second, I think. Actually, Olivia, do you want to help answer this? So the question is, how the heck are patients going to find the app? Also, how are you marketing?
Good question. Jeff and I were just talking about this morning. Marketing is going to be huge. In that, it'll be grassroots in the beginning. And then as we get more money, we will go market to patients. We have a lot of different discussions around who our target patient is in the beginning. Eventually we all know that patients at any stage in their lives could benefit from having a shadow nurse in their back pocket. But we're thinking, crisis mode is really what's going to draw people to this. And then the app, is they just, download it like normal. But it'll all come down to marketing and getting people's awareness. We have some ideas about how to spread early awareness, like through you guys, your relationships with patients and with family and with other nurses, and knowing, the patients you work with that are in need. And then on the patient side, we have a pretty long list of patients that we've worked with in the past, just in our initial service when we were providing it on our own, and through focus groups and through health fairs that we've attended. So we do have a decent wait list of patients for launch. But the next step really is getting a few nurses providing the service outside of this app, getting some patients to test it for free. And then we will start rolling out the app to begin testing how the mobile app works in the marketplace. Feel free to add to that, Jeff.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. And I was just advancing the video here to one of the next sections where you can kind of see what it might look like to drill down a little bit further into a nursing profile. So here is Jasmine's profile, for example. There's a lot of conceptual things on here that we're not sure we're gonna even go with at some point. So when you see things like, and we got a ton of great feedback, by the way, on all these elements. So things all the way from like it's hard to read the white writing on the gold background. That was a great comment that we got. Things like that, all the way to like, I don't know if I want my phone number listed or things like that. And we very likely wouldn't be putting people's personal phone numbers in this, but we have that on one of the other screens as just kind of it's almost like a placeholder or just an example of the kind of content that could live there. This concept of like a rating, we don't even really know what that means, but it's just, again, we're just trying to flesh out placeholders for things that could live in this kind of screen, this kind of display. And then looking, obviously that we'd have headshot photos and a place to kind of like have further description of like like this concept of like a level 8 shadow nurse. Like, what does that even mean? It's not a thing. We're just it's a concept we're playing with and thinking we could have some kind of information up there like that. We would have things like the ability to click in to see where you're licensed and such. A little bit more about your academic history, perhaps. Things like this, like rates, we're not even really completely sure. We've been through many iterations of what payment looks like, and so we're still refining that. Whether that's something that you all will have individual control over, or if that will be sort of a group decided rate, that's remains to be seen. And then at the bottom are some cool little things that I don't think really came through too well in the demo itself, but I can kind of speak to them a little bit. There's this some things down here that'll be more interactive tools. I'm trying to get this line to go away off the screen here. Oh, that wasn't how to do it. Let's go back to this. Let me see if I can find a way to get to that without this red line. Well, suffice to say, if I can't get it, things that are more interactive, like little indicators that might glow or flash if you had something like a patient, appointment coming up, or somebody had just requested your service. A way to like connect through audio to a patient, things like that. So interactive ways to engage with your panel. Let me see. So we have another. Oh, here's a question came in. Olivia, if you want to think about this one while I kind of wrap up the video. Could you market it specifically to physician groups? What about working specifically with physicians? We've done a little bit of that in the past, and Olivia, you can think about that while I wrap up here. So I think that was about it in terms of what the video had to offer.
I talk a lot in the past in our newsletters and in the past videos in fireside chats about a startup, right? So a lot of what you're hearing, these concepts, these ideas, like right now we're in the stage of testing all this, right? So we're going to show you some initial feedback we got from nurses now. But the vision, just really 30-second for those that are new to this is, you're able to provide care navigation for as much or as little amount of time as you want, whether that's 40 hours a week or 5 hours here and there outside of your normal job. The vision is to create a flexible remote workplace for nurses. And then the app it's an app because you can do it from anywhere, right? So I'm thinking constantly about how to integrate this into your lives so that it can be easy supplemental income if you want, or it could be, your full-time gig. And then that addresses so many things, right? Like if you just need a break from bedside, burnout, flexibility with what's going on in your life, right? That's the vision. And the service itself, we are building to be able to provide the service within the app. So, taking phone calls, notes, after visit summaries, the discussions you have, recordings, data collection, all of that is going to be within the ShadowNurse platform that we call Solar. So that's the name of the actual work environment that you would be doing and capturing the amazing work that you do for patients and the data around it. So that's just to catch you guys up a little bit in case you haven't seen the past videos. But if you're a new premium member, all of our past, fireside chats and videos and newsletters can be found. And Jeff, maybe you can tell them how to find them exactly, but you have access to all of that. So if you want to just, binge watch anything, you can feel free to do that and get caught up. And then the physician partnership question, I think our North Star needs to be a service that is agnostic from an established system, right? So there are a lot of services out there, maybe not care navigation specific or the approach specific that we are taking, but their go-to-market is to contract, with a health system or with a provider system or a clinic. And then usually that means integrating their tool into their EMR or into the service stream that they provide. So absolutely, if providers want to have ShadowNurse as an available tool that patients can sign up directly through, great. But a lot of companies go to die by trying to integrate with existing systems and then lose their brand identity, lose their ability to customize and build for the users that they are targeting, right? And for us, that's you guys, that's nurses, and then patients. But my fear is if we go the traditional route and really like contract and mesh too much, then we're going to lose that ability to really build for the nurses. But 100% we will partner with any establishment that believes in us and that will, refer their patients and promote us. That's, one way to get in front of patients. Absolutely. Especially providers that are dealing with patients and family members that are in a crisis mode. Something has just happened and they feel like they need support. That's really when they feel the pain of having to navigate the healthcare system. One potential partnership we're talking about is Ronald McDonald House. So that kind of thing, right? But yeah, great question.
There is research to show, this came out of Johns Hopkins. There is research to show that care navigators or medical companions, as they call them in the research, not only benefited the patients, that's the obvious thing, but actually it was something along the lines of over 95% of providers who had a medical companion assist in a visit had a high level of satisfaction about that visit. And so we're not only, you and your presence are not only helping the patient and their immediate family, but you're also helping to expedite and facilitate in the medical visit, just something we're going to get into a lot more as we get onboarded and get folks kind of trained up. But there's, there will be a day when you could expect that a physician, for example, or a provider of any type, would ask the patient to if they had a shadow nurse, because they're going to come to expect that if a shadow nurse is there, that the visit goes much more efficiently, and that they can trust that the patient is actually going to retain that, get and retain and be reminded of that information that was discussed in the visit well beyond the visit. And right now, up to 80% of information is lost before the patient even walks out the door. So physicians will recognize that. And yeah, I can imagine, just like as easily as you say, you want to go Google some information, you could say, hey, let's get your shadow nurse on the phone, because it's going to be a part of the lingo. It's like, well, did you come with your shadow nurse? Let's get them called in and facilitate this. And if that patient doesn't have a shadow nurse, that could be an opportunity for that group of physicians, that group is, which was part of the question, to recommend, well, we always recommend that our patients have a shadow nurse, because it makes their practice that much better to do so. So we're going to quickly run through some of the feedback, and we're not going to get into it too granularly. And we're going to keep it anonymous, obviously, but we just wanted you to be aware of sort of like where the trends were heading in terms of the feedback that was given. And we had I think there were about 30 people who looked at the app demo, so we got a pretty good cross section of information from folks. And that's the problem with people who build applications, don't talk to their user groups, because they just think they know what they want, but they don't really know what they want. And so in some ways, the critical feedback is the best feedback, because it really helps us to identify areas that are probably a concern. If for one person, they're probably a concern for multiple people. I think when you haven't seen anything yet, maybe your expectations are a lot higher. Or if you're not as familiar with how things get built in the digital space, it's a lot of iteration. It's a lot of like small steps and iteration. It's good for us to take that in and reflect, and you're making this whole thing better by giving that commentary. So we really do appreciate it at all levels. But just as far as trends go and things like that, did want to say that the trends were in the right direction, even just with this very limited glance at things. And so one of the questions was, it makes me excited to see or think about seeing my profile information included in the ShadowNurse listing feed. And pretty much everybody felt that there was a lot of positivity and excitement around that. I think it is cool when you get to kind of see your name and wait until you see your photo up there and, all your accolades and stuff. Like, it's going to be pretty cool. So that was good trend there. The design of the content seems clear and easy to navigate. This is a little bit more spread out. I think we want our answers to be in the 6 and 7 range. Thankfully, we didn't get on the really low end for any of these questions. But I think we have a little bit of room to go here still on sort of the interface and making it just crystal clear. And I know the video didn't have any audio, and that's probably a little confusing too. And so we didn't really narrate it through, and I think we'll make some improvements on that next time.
I'm not going to get into a rabbit hole about this, but I want to make a statement about why, it looks how it looks, because it doesn't look like a normal healthcare app. Okay, very, very much so. And that's on purpose. We have not nailed the design by any means. That takes multiple years probably to really land on a brand and a vision that makes sense. But I'm one of those nurses that thinks nursing needs a rebrand. I'm sure you guys have heard that statement on Instagram or LinkedIn. moving into 2024 in a tech company, right, that has an AI component, the way it looks is really a nod to we're doing something different. We are building a brand that is different than anything else out there, and that's how I envision it to be. Um, again, it's not perfect, but that's why, because we're trying to channel something a little bit different or a lot different. So I wanted to introduce that concept if you haven't heard it, branding, rebranding, nursing, and really trying to create something that stands on its own outside of, a hospital system, a healthcare system, and the brand that goes along with your employer, right? We're trying to create a brand that is shadow nursing and is nursing on its own, is nursing as an agnostic service, and a brand that really supports individual nurses in their careers to use technology and to provide services directly to patients outside of a branded, experience of a branded hospital. And if you have thoughts and questions, that's a topic I love to think about and talk about. So, feel free.
Thanks, Olivia. We're getting more great questions coming in on the chat board. Again, the chat is not, I don't think that it's public view.
I don't
But if you
see.
but if you
So,
do, I think I'm just getting
okay.
messages to myself as the host. But feel free to post some questions there. We had some other questions that came in ahead of time that hopefully we'll have a chance to get to. We don't want to take too much of your Labor Day away from
Yeah.
you either. So we're going to try to wrap things up here in the next 10, 15 minutes, say. So real quick to finish going through the slides here. Based on what I saw in the video and images, I'm likely to claim my profile to become a shadow nurse and would like to gain income working as a shadow nurse. So things are still pretty positive there. A couple of really good comments that came in. The quantitative numbers are one thing. The qualitative got into, I think, a much more broad spectrum from negative opinions to positive opinions. But just overall, I think the trends again are coming in the right direction. Based on what I saw in the video and images, I'm likely to refer other nurses to join ShadowNurse. This is a very standard question to ask in today's day and age. It actually is born out of the NPS score, which is called a Net Promoter Score. This isn't quite the Net Promoter Score as billed, which is actually a 10-point question. And you've probably seen this in other apps before where they pop up just a single question: how likely are you to refer this app to a friend? And it's 1 to 10. The only scores that actually count as positive are 9 and 10. So we didn't quite do the whole 10-point scale, but you can see if you extrapolate from that, we did get over half of the people would be likely to refer in the highest group. And so I think we have, again, some room to go. And that's not surprising. This is the very first, attempt at putting something out there for reaction. And so I think we're trending in the right direction, but we have some way to go for sure. I think that was the last one here in the slideshow. So let me cut that out. And then I've got a great question that came in related to the app. And the question, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's they're having a hard time understanding how a patient is actually going to pick a nurse. And I agree, it seems a little bit overwhelming and daunting. And there's other apps out there that do similar things and have found they're suggesting in this question that they found maybe a more elegant way to do that. Olivia mentioned the algorithm previously. I think the idea here is to try to make it to relieve as much of the burden as possible on the patient in terms of having to actually comb through and read and pick and not know. So what we're going to implement will be an algorithm that will do something like taking all the attributes that we know about a patient through some, really straightforward intake format to learn about languages spoken, cultural preferences, geographic location, what illnesses they are concerned about or suffering from, taking all that information and then basically bouncing it or pairing it to, bouncing it off our list of shadow nurses to find really the best match for that person, whether it's they're looking for someone with a certain language spoken in a certain region of the country who also has expertise in some certain field, area of interest. And that would hopefully refine the list down to maybe a handful of very like meaningful, like manageable number of nurses to look for. And we might even just go ahead and feature one and say, here's one that we think would be the best fit, and here's some others to consider, something along those lines. So then it's really just more, it's taking the decision making really off the patient's plate. That's the last thing we want to. We don't want to cause friction at all. We talk a lot about Uber here in the company when we're talking about aspiring to certain things, and you can like or not like Uber for one reason or another. But what they did do really, really well was they were very maniacal about making sure that patients that riders had no friction when it came to getting in a car and booking a ride and making payments and such. And if you remember back in the day when they first started, it was literally like 2 clicks and you're in a car. It was like you pulled up the app, you kind of like logged in and you requested a car, and the next thing you knew you're in a car. And payment was all seamless and everything was super slick. And so that in the spirit of that, we're trying to really reduce friction on the patient side. Olivia, I'm going to let
Yeah.
you
No, I
chime
like
in.
I like the Uber analogy. I mean, we might find that patients don't want to pick a nurse, and they just want to be surfaced exactly who the right, person is for the job based on their needs. Now when you go into Uber, you get a lot of questions if you want to go through them, right? Do you want like the luxury car? Do you want quiet or not quiet? Do you want music on? Do you want the driver to talk to you? Like now they have a lot of features and filters and choices, and that was based on learning, right? From their users, from the riders, and probably from the drivers about what they're willing to do, and set, parameters that they're willing to compromise on. And that's what will happen, right? We will have nurses and patients, and we're going to learn, just continually learn about both sides and what, each group is willing to do and where the most seamless transaction is, and also what personalizations are wanted. And I think that patients will want a choice, not of, 25 nurses, but maybe three, and then they have some ownership over picking that relationship. Um, but yeah, it'll be in true startup MVP tech companies, right? You learn, you keep doing these kinds of surveys, you keep polling people, and then you build to the audience and to the needs of what they're telling you.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, and it was mentioned the name of the app. So thank you for naming that app, and we can take a look at it and kind of compare notes. Um, yeah, I think there's all kinds of really cool features that we talk about. The what you're seeing right now on the demo there is like I don't know, Olivia, like 1 or 2% of where we think this is going to go. That's really just like first blush, just like when you talk about like what's a core thing we need to have. Well, we need to have a way to feature all of you, right? So and for you to be able to customize your profiles and such, like that's a core thing that we have to have. So that's kind of where we're starting to dip our toe in the water, get that part of the app out. But there's a whole world of ShadowNurse beyond that there's cool, smoke and magic and things going on in the background. And I'm sure we'll pitch a lot of these concepts to you and try to have you help us refine them and prioritize them. That's where we really, I didn't want to get too much further into this or end it certainly without saying this, which is that we are committed to building this alongside of you all. And I'm saying that for the folks who are on the call and for those that will be watching it at home later. Our commitment up front was that we would do this hand in hand. And so that's why we're trying to find as many possible ways to bring you into the fold as possible. So look out for more ways. We actually, in addition to the 30 some odd people who signed up to beta test originally. We've picked up about another 20 or so just in the last couple of weeks who've opted in after the fact. And so there will, just for you all who just recently opted in, we're taking note of that, and we will be finding more and more ways to get feedback, whether it's through a survey or watching a video or just getting on a call or things like that. We will find those opportunities, and really thank you all for your time. But it's a way for you all to get what you want, really, at the end of the day, which is an app and an experience that's and a job, an opportunity to sort of do things the way you want and envision them. And we're here to serve that need and to keep building. So thanks again for your patience and for your time. It's much appreciated. Olivia, any thoughts about that? And I will see if there's time for more questions.
I mean, I could talk all day. I guess like an open question to you all, if you want to put something in the chat or after email us, is like how much more engagement. We're gonna increase these chats to more frequently. You get a newsletter once a week or twice a week, but I'm continually trying to think of ways to talk to you all and continue to share these ideas in the progress. I have ideas like a text thread, like direct text thread, conferences, obviously that's a big lift, but some people have asked for that. But just keep it coming. Like if you see the vision and you see that this is, you believe in ShadowNurse, then let us know your ideas for how we increase engagement. We have, I think, 6,000 subscribers to our email. That's not premium members. That's just people receiving the emails, but that's amazing. So how do we activate that community? That's always top of my mind. But if you see a gap or see a need as we build this thing in terms of communication from us, please let us know.
Yeah, I want to be very clear again too, that we are finding as many ways as possible to prioritize the premium members. You all are really essential to us keeping the lights on, for lack of a better way to describe it, but also letting us know really, how much core interest there is in what we're doing. And that will come back to you with benefits in certain ways. And so, one of the obvious ways in which that would be the case is that when we actually do finally get people onto the platform, we're going to turn to you first. And so that's kind of a promise that we've made and want to uphold. So when we do start going through onboarding and getting folks up and running, it will be you first. And so you're in a good position now for that. And I think I'll say also, I also want to caveat this. We do say this from time to time, and just mentioning like how big the nursing community is that's following us now. There's a spot for everybody. There's no question in any of our minds that there's a spot for everybody. And we're going to find ways to find priority for you all. But there are millions of patients out there that are needing this type of guidance. And we're going to find them for you. And there's no question that we are going to be able to get a lot of patients on the platform. And so we're thankful that we do have so many folks following. And there's a place for everybody. One of the things that was mentioned with patients finding nurses and how that happens, we're not restricted to geographic location. Shadow nursing can happen across state lines. There's no issues there. But we do think that there will be some advantage in matching people at a minimum to the same time zone, just so you're in sync. But even more so maybe to more narrow geographic locales, just because you'll understand perhaps just what's happening in that town or in that state or in that region of the country, the Southeast or the Northwest or, what have you. Because maybe there's some things that are relevant to what that patient is going through that you can bring up by having some knowledge of that. So we do really, we're not just gonna, what we don't want to do is just have like, a call center with, 20 nurses in Los Angeles, taking calls for patients around the country. That's not what we're going for. We're looking for something much more personalized and customized, really. And so we do have the luxury of being able to say that there's potential shadow nurses who are interested in, literally every single state across the country. More so than that, certainly every major metropolitan city, and even more so than that, a lot of even the more suburban and rural areas as well. So there's thousands of nurses, but there's lots of reasons to have that many, if not more, when we're talking about, over 70 million seniors who are dealing with multiple chronic conditions and things like that. There's just more demand than supply at this point for sure. Okay. And Olivia, anything more about that?
All set.
Okay, we'll keep you informed, keep up with the reading the newsletters. We'll get this video out to folks who weren't able to watch it live. Thank you so much for your engagement and all of your questions. We will let you get back to Labor Day festivities if you're lucky enough to do that. I'm just seeing one more question coming in about how to be a beta tester. At this point, you could just email us, hello@shadownurse.com. We are super horrible, not intentionally, but really, really having a hard time being in touch with everybody. We're just getting inundated with questions and well wishes and things like that. And so it's amazing to hear from you all. I'm actually going to take your name down for the person who asked that question and get you on the list. But yeah, we'll ask again. But it came through one of the emails that we sent out a little while ago, and there was a comments section where you could just say yes, and then we put you on the list. So, but yeah, we will send things like that out again so that you'll be on the beta tester list if you want to be. So again, thank you so much. We're going to say goodbye.
Thank you
I'm looking
all.
forward to the next time we have a chat. And yeah, thank you so much for everything and all the support. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy Labor Day.